Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you had an amazing weekend. I'm going to start off today's video with a question. What are your retirement plans? Now, for most of us nowadays, we take a look at the market. We take a look at everything that's going on. The job market, the economy, everything. And that is a question that brings much trepidation. How prepared can we really be? Now, I've heard people say things along the lines of, well, look, we don't have, for the most part, most of us, pensions anymore. And we don't have hardly anything in our 401ks. How in the world are we supposed to retire? I guess we're going to have to work until we're 80, 85 years old, if we live that long. Except one small problem with that is the recent layoffs have been targeting people over 50 years old. If you are over 50 years old, they are doing literally everything they can to squeeze you out of the market. And one of the major problems that arises from that is the new policy seems to be in much of corporate America, but a lot of the job market that's out there right now, to simply, once you've been squeezed out, or you've quit your job, or you've attempted to maybe retire early, or in many cases you've been let go quite suddenly. They simply take your job, break apart whatever responsibilities were left, and hand it to other people in the company. No increased pay, nothing like that. They simply divide it up. Other people are now doing your work, not getting any additional pay for it. And that is the new way of America moving forward, especially as boomers retire or as you're forced into joblessness past the age of 50. So that then begs the question, if you don't have a 401k that's big enough to retire, and we're talking in the millions at this point, most people that have taken a look at what it's going to take to retire here in America, it could quite possibly be in the millions unless you've figured out some kind of way to be debt-free, which if you've been watching this channel for any period of time, I highly recommend cutting as much of your debts as possible and living as smartly and as inexpensively as you possibly can, as little overhead as you possibly can, to try to weather the storm. It doesn't guarantee that you're absolutely going to weather it, but it's a start. So if you can't find gainful employment and you don't have a 401k that's large enough to keep you covered all the way through, a lot of people are going to be in a whole lot of trouble. Now, over the years, people have been using manufactured homes, basically like mobile homes, moving into parks like that and using that as a form of retirement. Understandably, affordable, simple, straightforward, not a lot of overhead. Except over the years, and as you know, I've mentioned private equity on this channel quite a bit. Private equity has figured out that these people are basically locked in. They own the homes that are on the land, but they are renting the land from the mobile home park. So they'll come in and they'll buy out these mom and pop mobile home parks and double, in some cases, the amount of rent. Then they'll use Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, use money, leverage, and other assets that they've gotten from acquiring one park after another to continue buying up parks. This has been happening a lot up in Michigan. I've been covering this in a couple other videos that I've done. But what starts to happen is these people become trapped in there to where they're draining every last dime of these retirees to the point to where they have nowhere to go and no means to survive the storm. So private equity isn't just wiping out our housing market pretty much by buying all the older single-family homes and making it impossible to have those as options out on the market. They are actually going ahead and wiping out our retirees all the way across the board. In many states, they own as much as 40% of mobile home parks that people are attempting to retire into, which is a disturbing number. And the government is really, in many ways, shapes, and forms, helping them to do this. Which then leads to the next phase. Seniors living in cars, in vans, basically living out of a vehicle somewhere, hoping to survive whatever little bit they can, carve out what they can in this life, and hope to make it through. Now, I realize all the things that I'm saying sound just like utter doom and gloom. But you have to face the reality before you can begin to address what the possibilities are of what to do about it. And this, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, is the truth of the world we live in now. We are facing this coming up. Those of us that are going to retire, Social Security is going to basically have past 2033. We're in trouble. The ability to pay out from Social Security is going to be severely diminished, and most of us will never receive Social Security, if at any point. I mean, it'll be so diminished, and you'll be so old, you'll be lucky to get it. Retirement, as far as 401ks, which ultimately were what replaced pensions, nobody hardly has a pension anymore. So the reality of the situation is that most people from the boomer generation at least had some of these options there. Those options are now long gone. My question to you, what are your plans? I want to hear what your thoughts are in tackling this. What creative ways have you gone about doing this? Because unfortunately, that's what we've come down to, isn't it? Get out of debt, do whatever you can to reduce your overhead, try to escape all the bills and traps that they hit you with at every turn. And what creative way have you figured out to get around this? It's incredibly important to think about, to a certain degree, as much as you can before you get to your late 50s, 60s, and 70s. And even if you're at that point in your life, it's never too late to start making adjustments wherever you can. We have to be the ones to do this, because obviously our government is not going to take care of us. They're not watching out for us, even though they're elected officials that are supposed to be. So since they aren't taking care of us and we're being completely thrown overboard by the system, we have to figure out creative ways to survive this until real change at some point, if we're lucky, ever occurs. So I pose the question again. What creative measures are you taking? What are you doing to try and figure out a way around all of this? And I apologize. My voice has been kind of going in and out. I've been getting over something over the last week or so, but definitely feeling a lot better and glad to be back on here and talking with all of you again, even though it's not always the greatest news. It's news that when you face it, you can begin to unravel the problems and figure out creative solutions like we're talking about here. So, as I said before, I want to hear from you in the comments. What are your thoughts on this? How many of you are still being able to maintain work at an older age? What type of lines of work are working best for you? Because I know there's going to be other people in the comments and people even in our group. If you haven't joined it, come on over and join us. The link will be down in the description. And as always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. It all helps the algorithm. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon in the next video.